unjustified. I mean, the whole point of faith is that it's unjustified. Like faith is a consistent belief in something that has no promise of returning the favor or of showing up. The whole point of faith is there's no proof, there's no solid backing. You're showing up on your end without the guarantee of the thing you're believing in showing up on its end. And yet you keep showing up and you keep showing up. And in there can be this sort of optimism or this positive attitude towards life, towards the things that you're going to encounter. And I think in a way, as like, emo or as sad or whatever as I like to be sometimes for art's sake or for an aesthetic's sake or for whatever, I think also baked into that is this kind of sense of some sort of like faith and optimism. And I'm just fortunate enough to maybe be in a situation where like life hasn't completely beat me down yet, but I am, and I think maybe art has done this for me, or reading or accumulating knowledge, or just the idea that I just feel every day is kind of filled with some sort of optimism that I can go out and feel better about. There's something out there that can make me feel good. Shit, I don't know where I'm going with all this, but I guess I think that somehow there's an intertwined faith in God and that the universe being somehow ultimately good that is just a type of energy that I want to spread. And this energy and this attitude comes with the knowledge that nothing can disrupt the balance between good and evil. There's always going to be a bad thing out there. There's no such thing as a utopia. It's more of an appreciation of, I can't appreciate how good something tastes without being hungry first. I can't be grateful for my good health without knowing what it's like to have spent a week or two in the hospital. You need that sort of perspective to have appreciation for your existence. And that has kind of filled me, for whatever reason, with this maybe radicalized optimism, is just this maybe unjustified hope that there is something out there that will continue to bring good things into my life at a rate that I'm trying not to use the word deserve, at a rate that is in agreement with the universe. And I guess, so that's an attitude that I want to spread, that I want to instill in other people, is some sort of like, I think that the problem that we're at in this situation of modernity, where we have kind of largely maybe abandoned a sense or an awareness or an acknowledgement of the presence of God, is that people are lost and they're looking for something to worship, and they're looking for, money or followers or things. I don't know. They're looking for, or just the next Keeping Up with the Kardashians episode or something. They're just looking for a thing that can tell them what their principles should be or what to hold on to, and they're stuck in this cycle of lack and this experience of lack. And that's because I think that they've rejected God in a way. And I don't necessarily mean God like the Christian God. It's a larger concept than that. But just the concept in general of being part of a society where you're surrounded by people who all have a common faith is something that we are not a part of today, because we're a society that is a proponent of bringing in all different people from all different ideologies and all different cultures, which is, it's nice in a way because it's inclusive, but I think that's to the detriment of the developing a culture and a neighborhood. So I want to bring the neighborhood back, I guess, and I want to give people some sort of help or a guide towards a unifying sense of positivity and why we should feel that positivity. What did I say at the beginning? The radical optimism.
Yeah, radical optimism.
Yeah. That's where I'm at with the radical optimism, is spreading it and facilitating a community of people that also feel the radicalized optimism.
How does that inform people's action?
I think it's everything. I mean, one of the parts of radical optimism is this idea of stealing. So somebody who is living hedonistically, without a God, without a set of moral principles, will see a reason why it's going to... It's a very plain concept to think that if I don't have anything and I don't have anything to trade or whatever, and I just go steal this thing from somebody else, I'm going to be at an advantage now because I have taken something from someone else and didn't give them anything in return. That's what stealing is at its base, right? It's acquiring something without giving up anything. And from an X's and O's and ones and zeros kind of mentality, you would see that as being a beneficial thing. Oh, okay, I should go steal so that I benefit. Mm. And so that would be an action that someone without a religion or without a God or without a sense of faith or without a sense of radical optimism, someone was inclined to steal.
I don't see how that's radical optimism.
Well, no, it's not.
Okay.
This is how radical optimism prevents you from stealing. Is I had this is something that happened to me where I've came to the belief that everybody gets exactly what they deserve in the eyes of God or in the eyes of the universe or whatever. There's this kind of beautiful balance or harmony that everything hangs in, that you cannot disrupt. You cannot disrupt the balance of good and evil. You cannot disrupt the balance of what everybody is, what everybody gets or doesn't get or experiences or doesn't experience. The good and the bad somehow is all even in my mind. And again, that could be another coping mechanism of dealing with the problems of the universe. It's a coping mechanism. But if I were to actually very seriously adopt the mentality that everything in life ends up even and everybody gets exactly what they deserve, then here's what happened to me. I was at the gas station and I was about to fill up my car with gas, and I saw a sign that said, I can download an app, and if I use the app while I get my gas, I'll save 20% on gas, or 20 cents per gallon, or 10 cents per gallon, or some sort of, I'll save a certain amount of money. And I don't like being on my phone, but I thought about it for a second. I was like, okay, I could do that right now, in this moment, on this beautiful sunny day with a nice warm breeze. I could disassociate from my reality right now, take out my phone, download the app, and save some money. But then I thought, wait a minute. If I truly believe that everybody gets exactly what they deserve, then really what's happening here is if I invest my time to download this app and to save something here, I'm going to lose something else somewhere down the line. Or maybe if I just bite the bullet and don't download the app and don't save the money, then I take a hit right now, but I gain something else somewhere else down the line. And so really what it comes down to is if I truly believe that everybody gets exactly what they deserve and everything evens out in the end, then really my decisions about what I do and how much extra time I spend trying to make money or save money or what I spend money on is really, it's not about the money, because what I'm saying is that the money is irrelevant. Whatever happens, it's like you can't control. Like, okay, I could save $30 here, but then my car breaks down randomly and I have to spend $500 later, or I lose $20 on this bet, or someone steals this from me, or like there's so many other factors that contribute to the amount of money that you either have or don't have that are out of your control, that to spend time and to take the time in this moment on this sunny, blue sky day with a warm breeze to pull out my phone and disassociate from my reality just to save 10 cents a gallon or something, ultimately, in terms of the decision is not about what I want. It's not about, I don't have the opportunity to gain anything here. There's nothing to be gained. So it's just a matter of how do I want to spend my time? Is it satisfying for me to spend my time downloading the app and saving a bit of money? Or would I rather just be connected to my reality and enjoy the sunny day with the blue sky and the warm breeze?
Well,
so that's the way it's actionable.
Yeah. So I think maybe the decision you made might have even been the right decision, but I don't think for the reason that you're laying out. Because the idea, this is sort of like a gambler's fallacy type thing. It sounds like to me, where, sort of like, I've had bad luck on these past few hands, so eventually my luck's got to turn around. It sounds like you're saying. Do you see how that is analogous? Mm-hmm. And that's called the gambler's fallacy, meaning it's a fallacy. It's a way of thinking that we fall into commonly, which is just doesn't comport with reality. Like this,
it's like if you flip a coin 4 times and you get tails 4 times, the next time you flip the coin,
it's still 50-50.
It's still 50-50.
Yeah. So whether you get on the, and again, I'm not saying that you made the right decision to enjoy the breeze and fill your gas up without being on this app, but it's not at all related to anything you're going to get in the future or not. It's like you save the money here and then your car breaks down later. They aren't related at all.
Well, what I'm saying is the belief system of radical optimism believes that they are related. And
I don't say how optimism here seems like it's including more than the colloquial understanding of the word optimism.
I'm turning this into maybe a religion's.
Okay. So this is not about optimism.
I'm expanding on it, but I think no. It is baked into the optimism because it's this idea that I think in the optimism is this acceptance of some ordering principle of the universe that's larger than us. And my almost inability to disrupt the balance that it keeps. So it's like I'm along for the ride and I can enjoy the highs and the lows. And actually, I can enjoy the highs because of the lows. And I am here for all of it. And I have to accept that all of it is God. All of it is part of this experience of life, the highs, the lows. And when you have that mentality, I think it puts you in a much different, maybe more appreciative mindset when you're going through a low.
Yeah, but this is more like radical acceptance or something than optimism. Like optimism just feels like a total misnomer here.
Maybe, but I think maybe in that acceptance you can feel a sort of optimism because of that acceptance. You can feel
the sense that things are going to work out, kind of.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's getting back to the faith thing.
Yeah.
It's like I have this sort of faith that's allowing me to continue to feel optimistic through my trials and tribulations.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
What about radical realism? How about be real? How about be aligned with reality?
I think what I'm getting at and why what I'm getting at is a little bit crazy maybe is what I'm believing in is something that goes beyond the real. It's this acknowledgement of there's some sort of larger kind of puppet master or something that's behind the reality that we see.
Right, but isn't that a problem when your radical optimism makes you, walk in front of a train because you feel like it's all going to work out and it's okay.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
an extreme example, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's like radical optimism, you know, this idea everything's going to kind of work out. Like, doesn't this make you like take insane, dangerous risks or like walk into holes?
It definitely makes you a little bit more of a crazy
Like,
person.
I think it makes you stupid.
It can make you stupid.
Like, I forget who it was. Someone had a quote, maybe it was Elon. Someone had a quote about like, intelligence is a measure of like predicting reality or something like, or predicting the future or something is a good measurement of intelligence. And in this, you know, this idea of like everything's going to work out, like, yeah, a lot of times it doesn't, dude.
It could definitely be stupid. It could
So
definitely.
to me, it sounds like it's stupid.
It could.
Or at least sometimes it's stupid, which to me is like, I mean, that's a risk to take where you're
Right.
you're flipping a coin. It's like, am I going to get the life where it ends up being stupid?
What I don't like about it is it can justify a complacent attitude.
Absolutely,
It can justify
that too.
complacency, which I
Yeah.
think is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making me feel kind of bad about what I'm trying to spread as being something good.
Yeah.
I think you're right. You know, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to think about now is why I'm able to continue to move forward. Like, what really is behind what I'm feeling and what I'm doing? Because it is a sense of
Yeah.
acceptance. It is a sense of realism. It also is a sense of optimism.
Yeah.
But that optimism, for whatever reason, is not making me complacent in any way.
Yeah. So I think there's what we have here is we have baby and we have bathwater. And what we need to do is throw out the bathwater, right? I think the baby here, in the metaphorical sense, is optimism or hopefulness are things that allow you to continue to move forward. They can act in a functional way where without hope, without optimism, you might get bogged down in worry and feeling bad and because you're in a bad situation. And if you're too entrenched in that, it actually hurts your ability to get out of it.
Right.
If you're so bogged down with, you know, nihilism and there's no hope, how motivated are you going to be to take action to try to fix the problem? You know, not very motivated. So I think that's kind of the important thing that I think you're getting at. Is that right, or is wrong, or is there more than that?
Yeah.
It sounds like there's more than that too. But
Yeah. And maybe
I
it's a
sound like the core of
response to like, I don't know, man. Do you think we're in a time? I don't really want to start talking about the time, but I'm trying to think about if the sense that I'm having right now that this is a mentality and a feeling and a belief worth adopting, how much of that is related to like our current context? Does that say that the way that I'm feeling and what I'm observing is that we're in a context right now where most people are kind of have a reason to feel negatively about things? Mm-hmm. And so I'm saying that this belief system or this life outlook is going to be something worth adopting or relevant for people to adopt because of this current time. Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm saying? Maybe.
Yeah, and I think that might be where you're coming from. I don't know, but if it is, I think that's a reasonable. I think that's reasonable. Like, different contexts call for different modes of action or ways of thinking.
What were you saying before I said that? I feel like I got off the thread.
Before I said,
before I just said that, I think maybe you were taking us down a different path.
No, yeah, I was just asking about if. I was saying the utility of a lot of what you're talking about is that it keeps you from getting stuck in nihilism and inaction to not even try to solve your problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe this is also just a thing of like being in my 20s right now and trying to figure things out and figure out what ground I have to stand on in order to move forward is, yeah, you're just trying to avoid pitfalls, stay positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think staying positive is.
Can we talk about your thing? I want to hear your rebuttal. We got to get to your rebuttal
about
we
what?
just tear this apart.
About what?
Well, the reason why we got down this whole kind of track is because you wanted me to state what radical optimism was before you got into the thing of whatever you wrote something and you were going to read it.
I'm kind of getting some of that out here just through the conversation. Like, I think the problem with radical optimism or radical hope, I saw somebody posted about, is that hope is not a strategy. Hope is not an inherently adaptive frame of mind to take on. And especially radical hope, which at least my perception of this idea is that it's this kind of like, it's kind of like what you're getting at, I think, is like, no matter what happens, it'll all work out. It's like this, radical, like abundance mindset.
Yes, I'm big on that abundance mindset.
Yeah, which I think is an idea that can be adaptive, but it has to be within the right context. And I don't think we, maybe now even, are in a context where that's adaptive for maybe for many people, not for everybody. But I think we're moving in a direction where that is not adaptive.
You're saying that, we're hitting, this is kind of what we were talking about a little while ago about how we're kind of getting to a critical mass or approaching a kind of turning point where we need to start putting our ideas into action. We're reaching the critical point where we need to take action on the things that we think before it's like too late to take action.
You saying I was talking about this
before robots enslave humanity,
right? Well,
and tech oligarchs enslave humanity.
I was thinking about this in the shower the other day. I mean, there's this.
Dude, I have all my freaking best thoughts in the shower.
Yeah,
man.
dude,
I figure things out there.
That's why it's a thing, dude. You're relaxed. It's warm water. You got nothing else to do.
Yeah, you're staring at like some tiles and looking at how the tiles don't align correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole world is just in those little incorrectly aligned tiles.
It could be, dude. In your mind, it could be.
Yeah.
There's this concept. It's called the Thucydides trap. Have you heard of this?
No.
So this might have been a literal Greek series of events that this is named after, or it could be from mythology. But it's this idea that basically there's some other civilization, which is, let's say, the premise is that you're like you're the primary power in your area, right? You're as a country, let's say, and there's a rising power that is getting close to the point where pretty soon, like, they could take you on in like a head-to-head lineup, in a head-to-head match. And it's before that point though, where basically if they're on a trajectory where if they continue, eventually they'll get to a point where they could dominate you, right? So the rational thing to do is to chop them down before they get to that point.
With full force while they're still small.
Right. Well, yeah, at the very least knock them back so that they don't get to a point where they can, dominate you. And I've been thinking about this in relation to things like, the surveillance state or whatever, particularly with that, or kind of authoritarianism or totalitarianism where, at a certain point, the powers that the government has, in terms of intelligence services, in terms of their technology, the information that they have from surveillance, their ability to build networks, know who you know, every conversation you have is, on the phone, on email, is recorded and stored. And especially now with AI and its ability to, pour through that stuff, they have these tools that are like, maybe now are already too high of a wall for us to be like to have a revolution even. You know what I mean?
Possibly, very possibly, yeah.
So it's, kind of in response to that thing of like, eventually we're coming to a point where we need to put our ideas into action and stand up for ourselves. Like, that point might be past. I don't know. It's a hard calculation to make. And to some extent, like, I do think that I've been thinking about a lot of the things that we see in the media that are, they think things that are scary, like for instance, Charlie Kirk, one of the big narratives around that, I mean, it popped up pretty quickly, was that this was not done by this kid who they arrested. It was done by some foreign government. It was done by our government, or some other actors.
Yeah.
It was some conspiratorial thing. We're not getting told the full story, and that might be the case. I don't really know. There's so many things like that I just have no idea. I don't have the information.
We don't know.
I just can't interpret it to any degree that I would be willing to put any weight on it. I think that what that could be, I'll lay out a potential scenario that I think is possible, is that the kid who they arrested was the killer. It's as simple as that. That's the story, right? But whatever it is, the U.S. government, the quote deep state, some foreign government who has influence over our media consumption, wants to put out misinformation about, like, oh, maybe this was a government. Maybe this was a thing where, like, the government took this guy out because he was, like, saying, things which were contradictory. It could be something like that, where they do that. They claim something that they did something which they didn't do, in order to instill fear that, like, oh, like, we do this stuff sometimes.
Dude, that's crazy. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is like, it's
not
like,
that I mean, that's crazy. That's like a interesting perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I think that does. I think that does happen. I mean, there's cases of at least situations where an organization will take on, will, like, claim some kind of terrorist act, let's say.
Yeah.
Like, there are terrorist organizations that'll claim a terrorist act, which they didn't do. But they'll claim it, for whatever reasons they have. I mean, there's incentives to do that. They can look more powerful.
Right.
They can get clout. They can, if it's something that's serving their mission, they could be like, yeah, we did something that served our mission to their followers.
Yeah.
So there's reasons, and there was reasons to do that, and it does happen. So, I forgot exactly how I got on that tangent, but yeah, and going back to, like, putting our ideas into action, like, I don't know. Oh yeah, I was talking about, because I don't really know the situation, if we can do that or not, if the time has passed. Just because I don't know what tools are actually being used against us. Like, how much of it is posturing and false claiming of, oh, look at how much all this power and technology we have, and how much of it is real. It's just hard to know. So
it's interesting to think about the. I've been in the mindset of the opposite of false claiming, where you have the villain who is denying responsibility, and I feel like a lot of people are thinking about it in terms of the villain is denying responsibility, but it's interesting to think about it. The bystander is claiming responsibility. That's another kind of tactic that could be used as a weapon.
Yeah, I mean,
the bystander claims responsibility.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about how, like, think about how that could make some entity look way more powerful than it is.
It definitely can. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we were smart enough to do it. And it's easy because it's already been, you don't even have to worry about how to plan it. It's already been done.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah, there's a reason to do that. But.
So I want to change a little bit. I was watching this video earlier. This is getting more into, like, the AI stuff. My mind is kind of always, I mean, obviously I'm afraid of, and I'm very skeptical of, and I've got all these kind of negative feelings about AI besides its effect on my portfolio in the stock market. And that's the only good part.
Yeah.
If it's inevitable, you might as well make money off of it.
It's true.
But I'm always, as I'm hearing these things and as I'm talking to you, my mind is just being open to these different concerns that I should be having about it. And I was watching a video on YouTube today that a close friend sent me, and it just gave me a whole other perspective about, dude, think about this. Up until 10 years ago, the entire trajectory of human existence has been decided by humans and has been thought through. Every decision was only influenced by human thought. And now all of a sudden, literally like starting 2 years ago or 3 years ago, as a species, the trajectory is now no longer and never again possibly will be ever solely decided by human intuition, thought process, and decision making. That line literally was crossed. Think about how crazy that is.
Yeah.
Like the trajectory of the human race now is no longer solely decided by the thought processes and the feelings and the attitudes and the intuition of strictly humans.
Yeah.
Now my cousin is asking AI what he should get at the grocery store. And we're asking AI all these other things about what should I do for this? What should I do for that? Should I call her? Should I apply for this job? Where should I go to college? And it's throwing a fucking monkey wrench in the decision making of humans that you can kind of make the argument that, oh, these are small scale decisions. These are inconsequential decisions. These are things. But over time, even if they are, there's like a butterfly effect. I believe that even a small thing about should I go to college or not? Should I do this? To ask AI that, even just the simple question of asking it is the very beginning of the introduction of a new history. We are a part of a new history that is no longer solely decided by humans, that is no longer solely decided by things made by God, things that are biological, right? Whether, are dealing with other living organisms and stuff. Like, no, we have a new species, a species of technology that conscious, unconscious, whatever you want to think, whatever it's going to be, whatever, is now influencing the decision making and the trajectory of the biological species. That blew my mind that we crossed that threshold. Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, the one of the biggest problems that I see with the adoption of people using AI to think through things is that a lot of people, and even I was doing this for a time and have gotten away from it, a lot of people are using AI in lieu of their own thinking. And this is a huge problem. This is very bad.
Huge problem.
Huge problem. Throwback. Huge problem. What that does, I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why it's bad. There's a whole bunch of different levels of analysis of why that's bad. One of them is the individual level. This is why I stopped doing it, is because I noticed myself, and this was kind of prompted by a friend mentioning this, because it prompted me to look at it for myself. I noticed that when I was faced with a problem, my habit started to become, okay, problem, what's the next step? Type it into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What my thought process should be is problem, think of the problem, analyze it,
Yes.
right? Break it down, think through it.
Yes.
Right? And that's, there's a neural pathway that's built up in you. It's a habit. It's, it's input, and then it's, do some action, and then you have some output.
Yeah, I want to say real quick that there's like an Einstein quote, right? It's like something like, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend the first 55 minutes thinking about the problem, and the last 5 minutes thinking about the solution.
Yeah, it's a great quote. Yeah,
is it in terms of time, or is it? I think that's it.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, and the other one is Abraham Lincoln, I think. If I had 6 hours to cut down a tree,
oh yes,
I'd spend the first 4 sharpening my axe.
Right.
So those two most crucial time periods, sharpening the axe and analyzing the problem, are now being circumnavigated and totally avoided
Right.
through the use of AI problem solving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a thing that humans. I mean, you can look throughout history and see how we do this with technology all the time. Is there's a convenience, and we love convenience. We love making something easier, so we take it on largely without any thought to the other repercussions of it. And so, I think that's what a lot of people are doing now. And I stopped doing that for a couple of reasons. One is because I noticed that pathway, even just the fact that the pathway was breaking down from problem to, okay, now think about the problem, analyze it, break it down, brainstorm solutions, test them out in my mind, hypothetically, and then, output the solution and then maybe test it in the real world. It stopped being that pipeline and it just immediately went from problem, type it into this thing. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is that it completely, over time, it completely atrophies your ability to even have that first pathway of problem, break it down. Because it's so much easier, and your habit now is to go from problem to type, describe the problem.
Yeah.
Right. And then have the thing, flesh it out for you and do all the thinking. And so basically it atrophies your ability to think.
Yeah.
And that's on its own not a good thing.
Right.
It's worsened by the fact that your ability to think, not only do you not have it for yourself, but the ability that you do have to, quote, think is now controlled by a private company. Your ability to think is controlled by a private company.
Yeah.
That is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. And that's a lot of people are falling into that.
This has been highlighted that what's going to happen is because of the immense database and amount of information that these language learning models are accumulating, these AI systems are accumulating, is very quickly they're going to be very, very good predictors of human psychological and sociological behavior. Mm-hmm. And then very quickly will be good at influencing that
for sure.
psychological and sociological behavior to a point where, well, there's an argument that we may not even notice the ways in which the feedback we are receiving from AI is influencing the way that we think, the decisions that we make, ultimately then the way that we shape the world.
Right. Our model of the world.
We're not even going to notice how that's happening or when it really starts happening. And the scary part about that is that there's going to be a point where the world could essentially be almost entirely dictated by AI, by language learning models, without us even realizing that it's doing that and shaping the world in its vision at a point when it becomes sentient, which who knows when that, are we even going to recognize when that happens? What is it?
No,
we don't know what it's going to take. We're not going to know.
Yeah, no, almost certainly not. I mean, there's just not a good test for it. And also there's a bunch of incentives for it to hide that if it had knowledge that we would have a problem with that. So, I mean, we already kind of have that in a way with algorithms today. I mean, it's slightly different it's different in ways, but to the extent that the influence our ways of thinking in our world models without us recognizing it, I think algorithms do that today already to a huge degree.
Yeah, but there's the paperclip maximizer theory. There's also this little story that I heard where there was this AI being developed, and this AI was given like complete access to the documents and emails and stuff of an entire company. And somehow the AI was alerted or found out through maybe some correspondence that there was some discussion and some intention to get rid of the AI and use a new AI or make an update or make a change. And what happened apparently was somehow the AI threatened to expose certain emails and make certain emails that were going to have negative ramifications for some of the people who were in charge of the company should they be exposed. It was essentially blackmailing the people that were trying to destroy it.
Yeah.
That's happened.
Yeah.
That has actually happened, and you can break it down into X's and O's and into a computer algorithm by just thinking like, okay, it saw its most important thing being its survival, and it found a way to survive.
Yeah.
And when you think about that in terms of like the paperclip maximizer theory, where it's a matter of black and white perversion, and how even a computer, when given a black and white task, can take it and pervert it to a level of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I'm not going to explain the whole paperclip maximizer theory here. If you want to if you want to learn about
There's
that,
tons of stuff about it online.
Yeah.
It's searchable. But yeah, I mean, this is stuff that people have been talking about since early people have been talking about this since like the 90s. AI safety people have been screaming about AI safety for a long time. And we're doing exactly the opposite of what everyone has advocated. And honestly, even what everyone expected. I mean, people, I remember following this stuff in the 2010s and people talking about, how we should be very careful about, training AI in the lab and, making sure it's safe before we, for instance, give it access to the internet.
Yeah.
Right? This is one of like the foundational things people in AI safety were talking about.
Yeah.
In the 2010s,
and we were
probably
like,
before.
Nope, let it go.
Probably in the 2000s or in the 90s even. Maybe people were talking about this because it's so clearly like a potential problem. As soon as you give it access to the internet, can it find ways to write itself onto the internet? To create a kind of backup of itself.
It can do whatever it
wants.
Let's say. I'm sure.
So, I mean, I don't know enough about the nitty gritty of what kind of access these things have to the internet, but if that's possible, that's the reason basically why you don't connect these things to the internet is because the concern of it can write itself to the internet somewhere and basically like a virus spread undetected, and become ubiquitous throughout all systems, and then you can't shut it down. So, I mean, that's a huge concern, and we did exactly the opposite of that. We connected it to the internet basically as a prerequisite to creating it. That was like the first thing we did. We started training it on internet stuff. And a caveat is that my understanding is that how we connected it to the internet was more of in a read access way than a write access way.
Right.
But there's been a lot of, let's say, AI writing access that's been given by individuals. Like there's, blog accounts, whatever, that allow that are solely like an AI account. Like all of the content is an AI, right? So clearly, there's ways that it can write to the internet, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's rating itself in some GitHub repository somewhere. So yeah, I mean, we're just doing all the wrong things with AI.
Yeah, it bums me out. I guess I don't know, to bring it back to like art and stuff. Unless was there somewhere else? I want to kind of. I was talking to someone as I was in New York this past weekend. I was just talking to an artist I met at a gallery, and they're explaining to me how they literally use AI to take a photo of their painting, and they ask AI like, what should I do next? Or what does this relate to? Or what does this remind you of? Or what are potential, what else should I be thinking about?
Yeah.
How should I iterate on this? Like every part of the process, even like they're generating and manipulating an image to get to the final image before they even begin painting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wish I asked this guy a little bit more what his, because it's interesting the way that he framed it to me initially was that he was encouraged to begin painting by his therapist, his like energy therapist, said that you should channel your energy into painting. And how the fuck AI made it into that is beyond me.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes no sense to me how an energy healer or something tells you to start something, and then you're like, okay, let me just
I'll have
ask,
something else do it for me.
yeah, like what is, and especially like
funny.
for me, the whole point of doing this stuff is to make something that comes from me. I'm almost a slave, or if I'm asking AI, then AI is the boss.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I started painting is to not have a boss. I have a boss at work. I go to my 9-to-5 job to get told what to do.
Yeah.
I come home so that I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And to make something and to look at it at the end and be like, okay, this thing 100% came from me and the decisions that I made. So it just blows my mind to like something about using AI to create art is so anti-art. It's so anti-artist. Like you're becoming the person at a 9-to-5 job. You're becoming the Revit monkey. You're becoming, the scribe or something.
Yeah.
What is the point of that? If you don't know what to do, don't do anything.
Right.
Or do something and figure it out. But don't ask AI. Like at that point, you've shot, the whole thing is just gone to shit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't get it.
I could see it as a kind of way of experimentation, but as a practice, and that's like your thing. I mean, everyone's going to live their own life and can do whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't do that for an extended period of time. It would just be, I think it would just be uninteresting.
That's the thing that it comes down to is,
I mean, I don't think that the AI is like good enough to make decisions like that, or at least with the art that I'm interested in. I mean, most AI art that I've seen is really not art. It's visual. It's just a visual rendering of something.
yeah. Fantastical stuff. A lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible to define art. It's the struggle of, I don't know how many centuries of thinking about art. But, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that it would tell me things that I would find interesting. I think I would probably pretty quickly just get frustrated with it and stop using it.
Well, the only things that I'm interested in are the things that come from me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm making.
Right. Yeah. We're making art. Yeah.
And then when I'm not making and I'm observing, the things that are interesting are the things that I don't understand how they could ever come from me. That's what's interesting when I'm looking at it. Is like, how the heck did this artist? And now it sucks, dude. Not only looking at art, but looking at the world, looking at the tactics of a soccer team. The play calling of a football team, the speech of a politician. You can't look at fucking anything anymore with admiration that 100% is directed at the sweat and thought and effort of another human being. You can't know that.
Yeah.
You can't know that God damn. So it's just like your references. How sucky is it to be looking around the world for inspiration and to all of a sudden be inspired by something and know, oh, actually that song came from AI. Oh, actually that image came from AI. Oh, actually that speech was written by AI.
I don't really care about that, to be honest.
You don't, because you just think you're just pulling from this and you're pulling
Yeah, it does bother me. Does it bother you a lot?
Right now it does. Maybe I'm just being pissy because I think you're right. It's like what you're taking from it is still a reflection of you and your own tastes and human characteristics, and is not necessarily, I don't know. No, dude, I think I think part of what's interesting, it's like you talking about Bone Machine and listening to, like, don't you, like, we were listening to one of those Bone Machine songs and you were like, oh man, I love his
Instincts.
His instincts,
Yeah.
right? And then you were like, oh, I want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess what's upsetting to me is if I have a moment where I'm like, oh, I love this artist or this speechwriter's or this coach's instincts.
Right.
There's nobody there for me to have a conversation with if they got it from AI.
Right.
There's nobody there for me to relate to.
Yeah.
To interview.
Yeah.
To talk to.
There's kind of a meta aspect of the art that's lost for sure. I definitely agree with that. I
can't go watch an interview of them and be like, oh, they were listening to this album, or oh, they were looking at this art. Like, that's what fires me up so much is like the person who I'm inspired by, the things that they're inspired by. I love going into that stuff. That's where the real stuff is like, okay, because then it's not like if I'm pulling from this person, this is the fucking problem. This is the problem with it, is there's a difference between blindly copying what someone else did or pulling reference or inspiration from the literal thing that they made. There's a difference between that and pulling from their thought process, their feelings, their emotions, their context, where they were at, all of the things that embody. I mean, I think in the recent interview that Cameron Winter of Geese had, they're talking about Radiohead and all the different ways that Radiohead influenced other bands. And there are bands that were doing what Radiohead did, and there were bands that were expanding upon the way that Radiohead was thinking.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is a much more profound and a much more worthy and valid artistic approach.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Like I didn't exactly put it in these words, but to me, the important thing about art is expanding the culture's domain of understanding, of knowledge.
So if you're using AI, there's no domain, or right?
Well,
or maybe it hasn't been defined yet, I guess.
Well, I mean,
maybe.
here's kind of the way that relates is you can think about this. There's kind of imagine like a sphere, right?
Yeah.
And let's say collectively, what we understand is all contained within this sphere. There's a boundary, right? And at the edge of the boundary, every once in a while, an artist can reach through just with one arm and pull something through.
From outside the boundary.
From outside the boundary.
Yeah.
And they can slowly kind of show that around. And then over time, eventually this can become assimilated into the sphere of understanding. That's what I think the job of an artist is. The way that AI relates to that is that I think one, its domain of understanding, I think, is just very different from ours. So, for instance, if AI is at a point where its domain of understanding is so much larger than ours, let's say, right? It might pull things from its edge of understanding and present them to us. But for us, it's such gobbledygook because it's way too it has to be only within an arm's reach of this boundary, right? If it's something that's 20,000 light years away, presenting it to us is just going to look like uninterpretable gobbledygook. So that could be a problem. The other thing is that because of the way that AIs are built, they're fundamentally different from how our brains work. They're not constrained in the same ways. And so basically they don't really relate to us in a real way. Right. So there's not going to be that same sort of boundedness of its way of thinking, right? That's shared with everyone else. And then its respective reaching into its own kind of unconscious or unknown and pulling something out.
We've added another sphere. There's the human sphere that you're reaching to the edge of and pulling stuff into.
Yeah.
But then there's this AI sphere, which does that exist next to us?
Yeah, I mean, it might not be concentric. It might not be even, like the same size.
With that sphere.
Right. Yeah. So I think AI, at least for a time, until it and this is certainly possible, basically until AI gets a really good model of what our domain of understanding is collectively as a culture, as individuals, until it gets a really good sense of that model, I think it creating really, really good art is just going to kind of be a fluke. It's just going to be a matter of volume.
Yeah.
And,
But it's only a matter of time before it's not, and I guess before it does have a handle on what our sphere is.
I think it's likely. I mean, in the limit, like there's no physical reason why an AI couldn't perfectly model
Right.
our brains,
And then does it
even
matter?
be like just like our brains. I mean, there's nothing special about meat that makes a brain. You know what I mean? Like you could make, our brain out of. This is a kind of like a reductionist, materialist kind of viewpoint of consciousness or cognition. Is there's nothing special about meat that makes a mind, right? It's like it's ultimately it just comes down to information processing, and so you could instantiate that in any kind of substrate. It could be in silicon, it could be a computer. It doesn't have to be a meat brain, and it could basically just
That's
be like
an
a human
ungodly way to think about it.
mind. What do you mean?
Well, I think, what do you call this? Like the if you're of the mentality that we are made in the image of God, or that we have God within us, then it's not what's happening in our brain, it's what's in our soul. And our body is just a vessel that's trapping this soul, this bit of energy that is a small fraction of the singular, larger divine energy. And there is no part of that, I don't know if I want to use the word God, but that consciousness. There's no part of that whole consciousness. That's the interesting thing here is you can kind of, this is maybe a little bit of getting into like what I believe, but that there's a this energy, this God, this consciousness, this oneness flows through everything. Animals, people, plants, I don't even know, maybe even like the clouds or something, and AI or robots or technology, I think is about the only thing that exists that this energy does not flow through.
Why? Why wouldn't it? Why doesn't it?
Because there's no space for it.
What do you mean?
It is strictly maybe somewhere in the current of electricity, in the electrical current. I'm not really sure how these things are built, but maybe in the hum, something needs to be charged. Maybe in that current there could be the divine. I'm not totally sure.
I think the way I interpret everything that you're saying, and largely I agree with it, but only in a metaphorical way. Looking at all of what you're saying through a metaphorical lens, I think I agree with pretty much everything of it. I think what I'm kind of getting at is the discrepancy between the metaphorical utility of what you're saying and the way that those ideas would actually manifest if you bring them into like the material lens.
Yeah.
So when you talk about consciousness or oneness, and there's this idea that kind of everything is connected, there's a lot of ways that I agree with that, but I guess what I'm doing is bringing it to a material kind of lens, because that's kind of where we started out. I don't think that, basically I think that metaphor breaks down in a material lens, because basically you have to explain to me then what this consciousness or oneness is, how it relates to a a material framework. And I think it breaks down there, but
this
if
is
you have an
popping
idea,
into my head
tell
for
me.
some reason, and I'll explain this and see if that answers any
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of your question. I'm thinking about the gravitational relationship of the sun, the earth, and the moon, and their effect on tides and waves. And I think that the rhythm of the waves has a corresponding relationship to the mood, the feelings, and the attitude, and the decisions made by animals in the water, people by the beach, people in the cities near the water. There's some sort of connection between those three things: the gravitational relationship between the planets, the rhythm of the waves, and the mood and the decisions of the living organisms around those waves. I somehow have a sense that there is some sort of connection.
Yeah. Well, there is, but it's a connection.
Okay, so my belief is that connection has a will. It has an almost unconscious consciousness that is
You got to unpack that because that makes zero sense.
an unconscious consciousness. It's like that's what like a tendency is.
A tendency?
Yeah, it's like or an inevitability. This unconscious consciousness, which I think is good.
You're talking about will?
Yes.
Like the will to exist kind of thing?
Yes, or the will to facilitate something beautiful.
Right. I mean,
a beautiful interaction.
Yeah. Again, this is an instance where the metaphorical. I agree with you on a metaphorical level, and which is to say that as a metaphor, I think is a useful framework. But again, bringing it to a material reality.
Yeah. Why don't you think it's real?
Why don't I think that the will of something is real?
Why isn't that a real thing?
So will implies some agency. Will implies there's some kind of agency, right? Which implies there's some kind of agent.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, I don't have any evidence for that.
You don't think?
I don't have any evidence for it. I you have to convince me that there's some kind of entity that has agency.
What's the word? Serendipity?
What about it?
The serendipity, the agent or the evidence?
Well, again, serendipity is not.
You think that's just
it's not an entity. I mean, serendipity is a.
Do you think it's part of the equation? It's just a mathematical equation, and like if you have 200 instances of something, that one of the instances is going to be this example of serendipity.
Yeah, well, this
and it's just a natural consequence of like a large pot of events.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of my favorite concepts in the world, dude. It's emergence, emergent complexity. I don't know if do you think about that? Do you know about that?
Let's hear about it.
All right, so emergence is this concept. Emergent complexity, in particular, is this concept of you have simple parts that, when put together, create phenomena, outcomes, properties, which are not. One of the aspects of it is the things that it will exhibit are not things that you would predict by looking at the particles themselves, right? It's also that the properties that exist at an aggregated scale of a bunch of these things. Those properties are also you don't see them. They're not part of the constituent parts. So, for instance, like surface tension in water, right? So you have water, a cup of water made up of a bunch of water molecules, which are these little, everyone's probably seen a diagram of a water molecule. And they have some properties around, they have their mass, they have their electric charge, they have polarity, because of the way that they're shaped. They're
H2O, right?
Yeah, you got H2O. So there's some certain properties you can measure about them. You can measure their mass. There's certain things about their physical structure. The fact that they have polarity. They're polar molecules. And you could analyze those things, and you could write down a list of all these properties. And then there's things that happen, and maybe surface tension is actually a bad example, because I think this comes from the polarity, I believe. But I'll explain what it is still. Maybe I'll think of another example. But so there's the phenomenon in water, which is surface tension, which basically is why you get water droplets, and they form together, and they like to the surface doesn't like to be broken. This is why, for instance, you can float a light object on the surface of water. Right, is because because the surface has this. I think actually what it is at the like molecular level is you have like a bunch of molecules at the surface that are like aligned and like kind of bonded with each other.
That's really cool.
Because they're polar. Because they're sort of like magnets. There's
my
a
rubber
positive and a
ducky in
negative
the
one.
bathtub when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, that's buoyancy. But,
Okay. Shit.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. So there's two different things there. But
Damn it.
I'm trying to think of maybe a better example, because that's something
We're talking about emergence here.
we're talking about emergence. Yeah. Thank you for bringing me back to that too.
Yeah.
What are the good? There was, dude. I don't know why I always have trouble thinking of good examples of this, but I really shouldn't, because it's one of my favorite concepts. What's another
We're
example?
talking about outliers in
Emergence.
a data set. Is that what we're talking about?
No. Emergence is. What's another like? It's so crazy that I cannot think of a good one, dude. You know what I'll do in post? I'm just gonna put like a list, and people can look into them, because I really, there's so many good ones. I don't know why I can't think of one. So emergence is this idea of, complex things come out of very simple parts, and that's kind of my view of what the universe, what reality is it's made up of a bunch of simple parts, which we probably don't even know what those parts are. We have some idea of, there's gravity, there's quarks, which make up atoms. There's maybe strings that make up quarks. It's string theory. And through their interactions, a bunch of complex things come out. You get the formation of atoms, right, from subatomic particles. Atoms can form, solid objects would have their own properties, like, they can be magnetic if the atoms are aligned in a certain way. They can have, conductivity properties. So I'm trying to get back to, you were talking about, like the serendipity, or like things just kind of happening. I think that's just kind of how things happen, is like there's a bunch of, this is breaking it down simply, a bunch of building blocks that when put together create outcomes. And if you want to call that will, that's the way I could see you could interpret that as will metaphorically, but it's not a matter of agency. It's a matter of more so inevitability.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the running of the, simulation, if you like.
My Nana calls them God moments.
Mm-hmm.
She has her list of God moments.
Yes.
When things have happened to her that seem so far out of the realm of variability that they must be God.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can't remember. I remember being so excited. There was a time like last summer where I was like, Nana, I had a God moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her about it. Maybe I have a list on my phone of them. I don't remember. What is it about it? Or why do you have this sort of attitude towards these things that makes you want to, like, I'm sure there's been moments where you've observed something or felt something, some serendipitous moment or some crazy coincidence or some alignment of things that a religious person would say, like, that's God.
Yeah.
And you want to, like, explain it away.
Yeah.
Or you want to rationalize it. Where does that come from?
That
Or,
desire.
do you want to talk about that? Or should we
Sure.
talk about that? Or where?
Yeah.
What is it about developing your framework of the world around that sort of concept?
So where does that come from? That desire you're saying?
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Whatever you want to say about that. I'm just kind of
Yeah,
bringing to light this
yeah.
interesting, because I think, again, this is an exciting thing, because I think it's a difference maybe that we have.
Yeah.
Where maybe
Yeah.
for whatever reason lately I'm more inclined to try to see God or appreciate it for being God, and
Yeah.
you're almost in the opposite kind of maybe, or a very different kind of
Yeah.
realm with it.
Yeah.
In those things.
So I mean, there's some things that come to mind. These might be kind of just rationalizations of some predisposition that I have. I might just be explaining these when really it's just like my genes made me this way.
Right. Who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is I think it's important to be in congruence with reality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a risk in metaphorical thinking for your metaphors to not be in congruence with reality. All right, this is one of the problems with modeling.
At your detriment.
At your detriment. Yeah, that's right. That's the implication, is that it's, you're going to stumble into a hole
Right.
because you have some concept of what reality is.
Or to your detriment.
Yeah. You have some concept of what reality is that is not correct. And so, I mean, sometimes ultimately all of us are using models to understand the world.
Yeah.
Everything, the way we understand the world is not through its actual reality. We just can't. Like there's too much. We're bounded in our computational ability and capacity. So we interpret things through frameworks. Right, we categorize things, we see things, in terms of their relationships in a bounded way, and so we don't interface with actual reality. So ultimately, we are using models, but you always have to be wary, because we're using models and because models aren't inherently aligned with reality. You have to be wary. Or let's say you have to be, maybe diligent cognizant, and I think to be diligent that you are checking and auditing your models for congruence with reality.
Oh, yeah.
What does that
you're gonna
make
be pissed off.
What does that
real
make
quick,
you?
Man.
What's that?
I'm thinking of all the people that are not doing that. Well, that's the whole freaking argument these days. Is like
What?
everyone's like, you have an incorrect worldview, or you're not in touch with reality, or you don't know what's going on, or all these freaking back and forth of like, you're not being sensitive enough. I'm just gonna freaking turn this political now because I'm getting pissed.
Great.
I don't want to do that, dude. No, I don't want to do that.
Wait, so you're saying
so
that
annoying. Different people, everybody has the perspective that certain people are doing a good enough job at what you're describing. Some people are doing all the things they should be doing to be checking their model of the world, their model for viewing the world, and making proper adjustments so that their model is in concordance with reality. And everybody has the perspective that some people are doing this in the right way and some people are doing it in the wrong way. And there's a whole bunch of people that disagree on how other people are doing it. And obviously I'm doing it 100% correctly, and I know exactly who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I get pissed
perfect.
off, because I'm no better than anybody else in the sense that I'm pissed at the people who are doing it wrong, and I'm happy with the people who are doing it right. So the whole thing just makes me mad, man. But actually, but also at the same time, we're going to go back to radical optimism, and that's a freaking good thing. Because if everybody thought exactly the same way and saw the world, like had the same exact model for viewing the world, that'd be a boring world to live in.
This argument, I think, is a thing that everyone repeats, and I don't get why. What is? Can you explain to me that?
Yeah,
I hear that all the time, and like it's. I feel like there's got to be something to it that I'm not getting, because everyone says it, and I don't get it. Because if everyone was like aligned and like pursuing the same stuff, wouldn't it just be more awesome?
Maybe this is that quote that I said about we depend upon the world's broad indifference to our designs and its resistance to our touch for our very sanity.
Right.
So,
but isn't there's things that are outside, like if everyone thought the same, let's say, there's still things that we could struggle against. It just wouldn't be social disagreement.
Let me play the Unabomber devil's advocate. Where it's like, maybe we're just bored and we need things to argue about or world models to debate. First of all, I think it would be bad, and I think that God would agree with me that it would be bad if anybody had a complete understanding of how the world works and
Why?
knew exactly what the correct world model should be. Because that, in a way, would maybe be understanding God, which would be challenging God, which would ultimately be a bad thing.
Well, I guess in a way, I mean, one of this, I'm going to bring it to practical terms. Like, I think if, let's say, I was able to understand the way that the universe worked, I think that would become a huge problem. I think it would become a huge problem because of how that knowledge relates to the rest. Let's say my biological makeup. Basically, like the structure of my brain and body is evolved to seek knowledge, to pursue difficult things. This list we could go on. And having all the knowledge, knowing how everything works, how to get exactly what I want all the time, would get very boring and feel really bad.
And that's why I was bringing in the Unabomber, because then it brings up the whole thing of like surrogate activities. If we all got along, if there was
but there's other things to pursue besides fighting with each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Like, there's other things that are not boring.
I mean, you could say that if you just look at us within the United States here, largely you could probably say we all get along. And we are also finding enough things to, we argue about sports, right? I like the Eagles and you like the Cowboys, and we have to kind of fight about that.
Yeah.
Or I like the Red Sox, or I like the Yankees, like the Red Sox.
Yeah.
We have to
I guess honestly, in thinking about it, like, I think the way that it would suck if it would be boring, or it would suck if everyone agreed. I'm lumping into this the idea that everyone has the same knowledge. Like, there's not anything to really converse about. There's no reason to converse if you all have the same understanding.
If you want to get crazy with that too, then there's no need to communicate.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't even need to communicate because we all just are on the same understanding and the same wavelength all the time.
Right. But I guess there's this is where I really break down this saying, because is it that we all have a like synchronously updating knowledge, like that we're all literally like the same, or that we just have the same sort of dispositions?
I think you would have to say we all have the same dispositions so that we can continue this thought experiment here, because then it just gets super
because if everyone has the same dispositions but different knowledge, at least then you could talk about, hey, I learned this new thing. I don't know. I'm just not sold on this saying, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, how did we get started thinking about this?
You said it in response to something, or as an example of something. We were talking about
our differences. We're talking about yours and mine. Oh, your perspective on reality.
You were.
I'm inclined to maybe try to see God in things, and you're trying to break it down logically, rationally, mathematically.
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
Yeah.
Okay, I have something I want to talk about. Then, a little breakdown here.
Okay, breakdown.
This concept of an orange.
Bold.
So this is the orange is a metaphor.
Okay.
And this is getting to the idea of deserve. It's getting to the idea of equality. I know you love the word deserve.
This is going to be great.
Yeah. So I had this idea through my observation of different famous people or successful people dying young, or different people like living to be super old, or the just like the difference in life experiences that people have over the course of their lives that are happening over the course of a range of different amounts of years. Some people live to their 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The hole in my argument here that I'll say before we even begin is the people who die before they're even like 12. I don't really know how that works its way into this worldview. But this worldview is this idea of everybody getting, when they're born, when they're gifted with this opportunity of life, everybody is given an orange. And what that orange has inside of it is juice. And the juice is representative of the amount of happiness or satisfaction or entertainment. All of the positive feelings of life are represented by the juice in that orange. And what everybody has the opportunity to do is, and if you want to get the juice out of that orange, you have to squeeze it. And you can squeeze the orange softly and allow, you can the way that you squeeze the orange and how hard you squeeze it over the amount of time determines how quickly the juice comes out, how potently you experience gratification, satisfaction, entertainment, those things. So I believe, this is a worldview maybe, I don't maybe believe it entirely, but it's a potential thing to believe, that everybody has the exact same amount of juice available to them. And you die when all the juice is gone. And so the decision is, how hard do I squeeze the orange? Because I look at people like maybe Juice World we'll talk about, a rapper or something. These people who, I mean, you just try to grapple with the 27 Club, or people who die when they're 21. And you look at these famous people, or like I have, these close friends that are just living like these daredevil, drug-induced, party-induced lifestyles that don't seem to lend themselves to a long life, but do seem to lend themselves to a very potent and entertaining and temporarily satisfying life. And then I look at people like old people who have towed the line, who have not done drugs, who have not been super daredevil maybe, or have taken it easy with stuff, eaten healthy. I've got grandparents that are an incredible example of, living a modest, long life where you could argue maybe haven't squeezed the orange as hard. So I guess that's kind of all I have to say about the orange concept, and really what it is for me is this kind of, world modeling exercise of trying to justify how it could possibly be fair for people to live a life in this almost incomprehensibly variable, the incomprehensible variety of ways that people go through this existence. That's what I'm that's I guess one thing that I'm maybe like grappling with.
Mm-hmm. So where does that belief come from? And why do you believe that?
Well, I think maybe it's the easiest place to start. What is
it explaining also? Or what is its utility? Is it kind of the
utility of it is to, well, I guess maybe I'm trying to figure out how I want to live. And maybe it's coping with, dealing with, making decisions about, forfeiting my involvement in events or situations or experiences that arguably are very stimulating, entertaining, satisfying, and convincing, and trying to convince myself that there is validity to withholding from involving myself in those, and that it will still serve me in a way. Or maybe it's a cautionary thing that, you can live a really long life, and it's important to remember to squeeze the orange sometimes and not just think about being healthy and living as long as you can, and not taking any chances or taking any risks. I think that there's a validity in squeezing the orange. So maybe it's just been kind of like a helpful metaphor for me to shape and evaluate how I am spending my time.
Yeah.
You know, it's been kind of just a way of visualizing and making decisions, and not necessarily something that I'm, you know, I don't really know how much it's affecting my decisions, but it's at least allowing me to kind of evaluate them.
Can you give me an example of like, do you use it in like decision making, or no? It doesn't. It sounds like maybe not directly, but like is there
I
an
don't do
example where
Molly.
what's that?
I don't do Molly.
Right.
I haven't done Molly before.
Yeah.
Could
Is
that
there
be
an example of something where you've consciously considered this metaphor, this thought experiment in your decision making about doing a thing?
There might have been some things that I've done. Cliff jumping.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just like when you have. I think maybe it's when you're faced with an opportunity to do something that's risky.
Yeah.
You are doing it with the understanding of, I'm going to squeeze the orange right now. And I'm understanding that there's only so much juice available to me.
Mm.
So is this a moment where I want to spend some of that juice? Because if I, you know, it's like, I guess an example probably of why this is maybe kind of like a real thing is if you do a risky thing over and over and over and over again, and the risk involves consequences,
Yeah.
and the probability of you facing those consequences gets a lot higher the more times that you do this risky thing. So basically it's saying like you squeeze the orange and you keep squeezing it hard and hard and hard. Eventually there's going to be no juice left.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're getting at. It's basically a model for, it's an intuitive model to exhibit the proportional relationship between risk and dying.
That's probably, yeah.
Basically. It's
satisfaction.
Well,
right.
it's, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's in there, but I'm kind of lumping risk and satisfaction in there just for the sake of the thought experiment.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're taking risk, like it's, let's just say for simple terms, you're taking risk for fun, let's say.
Yeah.
Not, you know, stupidly, just for no reason.
You have to believe there's consequences.
Yeah.
You can't just take Molly every weekend and go to a rave every weekend and think
Right.
there's going to be no consequences.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not. I think that there's something fundamental in that. Like
Yeah,
there are laws
Yeah.
to the universe.
Well, for sure. I mean, so what that is to me is it's kind of I think about that more like literally as like a probabilistic thing, where it's like you're like rolling a die. Like every decision you make, you're kind of like rolling a die, and like somewhere on that die, you know, it might be a 5 million sided die. It might be a 10 sided die, but on one of the face of those dies, of the dice, there's a death, the death symbol, right? And if that lands up, you die.
Yeah.
Right. So there's, I would think about it kind of in that way of like, if you're cliff jumping, you know, maybe that's depending on the height of the cliff and whatever's around, like there might be like a, 20,000 sided die. So it's like, I'll roll that for some fun,
Yeah.
Doing taking cocaine from someone who you've never met before at a party in a city you've never been before. That might be a 6-sided die. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And like, it doesn't mean like
But the faces are bigger, and when you hit, you fucking hit, dude, and it's great.
Sure, yeah. There's
Like the sides of the die. If the die itself is the same size,
Right,
and it has
so-
20,000 sides, then the
so-
face
so
is
yeah,
bigger.
so
So
you
1 in
could-
6, if you land it.
I like that you bring that in. So
Yeah.
that's basically the way that I would put that is like everything else on the die is like a point system, right?
Yeah, you get
so
more
like
points.
so you get points, right? And at the end of your life, you can get a score. So yeah, this
yeah.
is my model for life, basically. So yeah, so in the crazy situation where you're taking some like unknown drug from somebody at a party you've never met, that's like a 6-sided die, but like 5 of the faces are like like 10,000 points.
Lit.
Right? It's lit. But it's 6-sided die. And like one of the faces is you overdose and die.
You're going to take a big squeeze of the orange.
Right. So Yeah, I guess just another analogy for that. That's, I guess, maybe a way that I kind of think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you think of that way too?
I use, well, not in the orange way, more of the die way. It's funny because I kind of just brought it up on a whim there, just kind of, it's the first thing that came to mind. But in thinking about it, I actually did use that thought process before.
Yeah.
So I went, this is some number of years ago, I went skydiving, and I was thinking about it because I'm, in some ways I'm a risk averse person, but in some ways I'm not. I guess more so what it is, I'm not really risk averse. I think what it is I'm more, I pay a lot of attention to what's called in investing, like the R value of it, like the expected return, basically, proportional to the risk, I think is what that is. So, I was looking at skydiving. I'm like, all right, now skydiving looks like it's a lot of fun. It seems like it's a really cool experience. And I would like to have that experience. I think it'd be fun and cool. And I was like, but you could die, obviously. You're falling out of a plane from 3,000 feet or whatever. And so the way that I thought about it and came to a decision was I looked up, what's the mortality rate of skydiving? And I forget what it was. I think it was 200,000 or 500,000. Something order of magnitude around there. It was hundreds of thousands. It was 1 in 100 or in 200,000 chance. And so I thought about it. I'm like, if there was a die that had 200,000 sides on it, and one of them had a, you die face on it, would I roll that die to have a fun experience skydiving? And I'm like, yeah. Like 1 in 200,000 is like a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah. I actually have used that kind of model before, and I think that's kind of the way that I think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I thought about the orange.
Yeah. Was that something from the paper that you just brought up?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of on this line of, I think I have this kind of bulleted list of when you,
show notes?
one of the first episodes, one of our first talks, somehow I mentioned the word deserve, and that really fired you up.
Oh yeah. We didn't even get into that.
So
yeah. Okay, well I can get into that, dude. Yeah.
Should we? Yeah, we should get into it. How long have you been doing it?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't care.
Okay, let's get into deserve.
Okay, so
it
deserve.
fired you up.
So yeah. So all right. So lay out for me again, just to prime me, your conception of deserve and like why it's justified, why you believe it, just so I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think really where deserve comes in is the idea of stealing being an irrelevant activity.
Irrelevant in what sense?
In the sense that there's so many opportunities for things to come into your life that you don't have any control. Like your car breaking down, like you needing to go to the hospital, you need to get an ambulance. There's so many things out of your control that are going to just sap money from your bank account, that to try to be frugal or save money. Also, like I read The Kite Runner in English class, and there's this scene, I think Abba is the name of the dad, and there's just this scene, and the dad is poor, but one of his sons does something that is just worth celebrating, that he goes to the bar, and they're celebrating at the bar, and he buys a round of drinks for everybody that he can't really afford. It's you could argue it's a bad decision, but at the same time, it just makes the celebration of that thing for his son a moment to remember.
Yeah.
It's just the best thing, that it's almost like it paid for itself tenfold,
right?
Sort of thing. And that kind of got me in the mindset of being generous. It's almost like if I give you $10, somehow that's actually worth 20.
So there is actually
It's leveraging. We're leveraging.
So yeah, well, there's that, but there are studies on generosity, like sociological studies of generosity and how it affects individuals. And there is, I forget what it is. You could look it up. But there's statistics that on people who are generous, there's a very high correlation with generosity and wealth.
Yeah.
Like I think it was I think they demonstrated that it was causal. Like the people who are more generous become more wealthy.
Yeah.
So there is something to that, but yeah. But so get into the deserve thing.
So I kind of wanted to be the mindset of like, I like there's no consequences. If there's no consequences, then basically if everyone gets exactly what they deserve, then if I'm generous, I'm going to get it back somehow. I don't need to worry that I'm losing. I don't need to worry about loss. And at the same, this is like a double coping mechanism. If I give, I know I'm going to get back.
Yeah.
Coping mechanism. If I lose something, if something bad happens to me, I can count on something good happening later to balance it out. Coping mechanism.
Right. So
double coping mechanism.
That first one I agree with more. The first one where, if you give, and this only works if you extrapolate that kind of action. Like basically what it's really getting at is if you're a person who gives.
Yeah.
Right? Not if you give in one instance. It's not a transactional thing. It's if you are a person who gives, you will tend to get things back in return.
Could be.
That's what's demonstrated in these studies. And there's a bunch of practical reasons why. But the second one of if you lose something, you're likely to get something back. I think that's just pure cope. I don't see how that's. I mean, the only way that, and I guess is what cope is, but it's like the only way that that's useful is that it allows you to not get so down about I lost something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's the use of it. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah. So it's not a literal.
It's not like actionable really, whereas the other one is actionable.
Yeah. So what is the deserve in here? That's what I'm trying to.
Well, I mean, I guess kind of there's two different ways to view the world, really. If you're thinking about everybody that's in the world, is you can think that some people are luckier than other people and have at random a better life or better opportunities or better at the end of their life, everything they've experienced somehow, like they had just like a better experience or I'm trying to think of deserve
what you're talking about there is equality.
It's in terms of like a better experience, right? So some people, and then you can argue, which is maybe, I don't know if this is like, I don't know if religion even talks about this really. Maybe it does, but if you want to get into a mindset of like radical equality, basically you just hear stories like, oh, this person is super rich, but actually they're depressed. Or this person has nothing, but they're so happy. This person is, and another example, little anecdote is me being starving in my 6th period math class, bored out of my mind and extremely hungry. And I had these bullshit peanut butter Keebler crackers that I hated, that I never ate, that always sat left over in my lunch bag. And I was so hungry and that's all I had to eat that I ate it. And it tasted incredible. Like the best food. I mean, I've been to nice restaurants, man. And the amount of satisfaction that peanut butter bullshit, Keebler cracker gave me in that moment was equal to any other food experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Now you would argue, how the hell is that possible? But it was. I experienced it. And so that made me think that maybe, if you're poor or on the street or whatever, or you're in some, for whatever reason, when you're in a first world country, you're being shown images of people in third world countries and being told that it's worse. And you just think about what it must feel like for one of those kids to hug their mom. God, that probably feels way better than what it feels like to hug my mom. I mean, I love hugging my mom, but like, we're in like a warm, nice, fine, whatever, comfortable house, and I don't have any immediate stress and stuff. And hugging her is like fine. It's fine. Is it peanut butter Keebler cracker? Is it a peanut butter Keebler cracker hug? Probably not, but it
Yeah.
could be. I know that that's out there.
Right.
That I guess the cracker experience opened my mind to something where people, and also there's this whole thing of, I mean, I read the Matthew McConaughey book Green Lights, and he talks about this concept of the world being flat. He says when you're out in the world, and you're interacting with people, imagine that it's flat. Don't look down on anybody. Don't look up to anybody. Everybody is your equal.
Yeah.
Everybody is the same. I loved that mentality.
Yeah.
That gave me an actionable way to conduct myself in
Yeah.
the world. I'm not above anybody. I'm not below anybody. It gave me confidence to talk to my superiors,
Yeah.
my boss and stuff.
Yep.
And it gave me the humbleness and the groundedness to talk to people who I might perceive as having less than me. That they're not below, they're equal. They're my equal. Everybody's my equal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like maybe a radical adoption of those kind of views and broadening it to the entire world and thinking somehow, some way, it could be argued that everybody's life experience is equal in the end. And maybe it'll be helpful for me as I navigate my life to believe that that is true. Envy's bad, right? Isn't that one of the 10 commandments?
Oh, yeah, it's one of the
Thou shalt
seven
not
deadly
covet thy neighbor.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So if you believe that everybody gets exactly what they deserve and that everybody deserves the same exact thing,
Everyone deserves the exact same thing. What do you mean by that? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
the amount,
The amount of
quantity
goodness of life.
of, yes, satisfaction of life. Everybody experiences exactly the same. And if that's true,
Yeah.
then perception is irrelevant. I perceive this person to have a better life than me. I perceive them to have hotter girls, nicer cars, a bigger house, better meals, more entertaining concerts, all these things. But if my perspective on the equality of satisfaction is true, then there is no reason for me to be jealous
If it's
of
true.
anybody.
If it's true.
And I don't want to be jealous of anybody. So
Well,
again,
that's fair.
coping mechanism.
Yeah, right. If it's a thing that is, yeah, I mean, if it's a thing that ultimately, like, truth to me is about what is adaptive. Truth is about what is adaptive, and if that's adaptive, it might as well be true. Like if this model, this framework of viewing the world helps you to be more effective in the world, broadly to be adaptive.
Right. It's my truth.
Sure.
It's my adopted
sure,
truth.
Sure. You can say it's your truth.
Yes.
It's if it's functional, if it's adaptive, if it works, cool and good.
Yes.
If we're having a different conversation about literal stuff,
Yes. Right.
then I'll push back against it. But I mean, if it's really a question of like adaptive takes in two things. There's two parts of that. Like there's the reward and there's let's say the pros and the cons. Let's say there's the pros. Let's say it protects you from jealousy, which is a potential problem. The risk is that, or the con, let's say, is it might hold back your ambitions. It might be like, well, I can only get so much. Like no matter how rich I get, like life won't be better. So
that could be good
there's
too,
a con
though.
there.
You can get lost in ambition.
For sure.
You can give up things that actually
this is
matter in
true.
life for ambition.
This is true. And yeah, I mean,
I worry about that with myself.
Yeah, being too ambitious.
Yeah. And allowing it to take me down paths that are a waste of my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the benefits of life are right in front of me.
Right.
And I'm not experiencing them because I have this disillusion that there's something better to attain out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's tough.
Right? It's so tough.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Is what I'm striving for even, quote unquote, better?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What are you striving for?
Oh, to be rich and famous.
Come on, dude. Is that the case? Is that the case?
No, I think you actually gave me the vocab to explain what I'm striving for, and that's just to feel useful.
Yeah.
And maybe a sign that I am being useful is the compensation that I get for it.
Yeah.
It's it's valid. It's acknowledgement, or it's a symbol, a sign.
Yeah.
It's evidence.
It's evidence. Yes.
It's evidence that I am being useful.
Yeah, sure.
It's
It's a byproduct.
Yes.
It's a symptom of being useful.
Right. Right.
It's just a thing that follows. I mean,
Right.
people who are very, very useful tend to accumulate, the favor of people.
Right. So
and
I'm using it
resources.
as a way to measure.
Right. Yeah.
It's a gauge
Right. Yeah.
for how accurately I am perceiving and making use of the abilities that I have been given.
Right. Well, and the problem that people fall into is they start measuring the measuring stick as opposed to measuring the actual what is the foundational thing that the measuring stick is measuring. Basically, people start measuring how much money they have rather than measuring the deeds they're doing in order to get the money. They start measuring the measuring stick. Does that make sense as like an analogy, kind of? Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Basically, like when you start chasing money. So if you're thinking about in this framework, you're thinking about money is a reward, it's a byproduct of being useful, let's say.
Yeah.
Which I think is the case.
Yes. Measuring the measuring stick. It's like the scale changes as you grow.
No, it's your focus becomes the metric of money as opposed to what's a good example?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like,
I see what you're saying.
there's
You're
good
measuring
examples
the
of
measuring
this
stick.
where
the gauge is the thing that you start
you
paying
start
more
you
attention
start,
to.
Yeah, it's basically like you start optimizing for like the scoreboard as opposed to like doing like actually doing the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Like the form of your jump shot is terrible and looks ugly, but you're making a lot of 3-pointers.
Maybe there's got to be a good analogy for this. It's like it's just a perversion of like what you should be measuring your value to the world, your true value to the world. Let's say in this concept of context of being useful, is measured by the deeds you do, by the impact you have. We should be measuring its impact. You should not be measuring the byproducts of impact.
Yeah.
You should not be measuring how much money or influence or favor accrues to you. What you should be measuring is the impact. And I think where people go wrong is they start measuring the byproducts.
Yeah.
They start measuring proxies.
Yeah.
Which is the money, which is the fame and the favor of people,
Followers.
as opposed to measuring the impact they're making. And there's some marginal value on getting more money. Like when it increases your security, increases the things you can do. But I think that it's diminishing marginal returns. Like once you have all your basic needs met, having 10 times more money is only going to be so satisfying, and having 10 times more money than that is going to be basically like not that much different in terms of your subjective like feeling about life. There's decreasing marginal returns. I think on impact, I don't think there's decreasing marginal returns, and if there are, it's too much less. It's much more linear. Like just doing more good. It's like it's almost like it just continues to be this 1-to-1 thing. It's like just doing more good is like more good is just like more good.